Welcome to the Life in Flow podcast.
The three of us, Yulia, Polina, and Irina, are exploring what life in flow and flow in life is.
Join us as we experiment, test our diverse hypotheses, and have fun in the process.
Will we find an answer?
This isn't just an intellectual discussion. We're co-creating a shared field beyond words. We're attuning to what emerges moment by moment so that the conversation itself becomes a group flow experience.
And we invite you to become an active participant in this experiment. There will be pauses and moments of silence. We leave them on purpose because this is where magic happens.
Go beyond the intellectual information. Listen with your whole body and notice how your somatic experience shifts in the process. Share with us what reveals itself in the space where mind, body, and energy flow together.
Welcome to the Life in Flow podcast. I'm Polina. I'm facilitating today. And I'm joined by my two magical co-hosts, Yulia and Irina. Hi, ladies. Today, we're going to be exploring the question of what allows humans to stop bracing. And I will define what I mean by bracing shortly. But I want to start with sharing why I'm engaging with this topic today. So I have been reflecting lately on the difference between belonging, which we just did an episode on, and it was very rich. Those of you who haven't checked it out yet, please go ahead and do so. So I've been reflecting on the difference between belonging somewhere with someone, with a group, versus actually being able to relax there. Because I think a lot of us can technically feel that sense of belonging in a family, in a relationship, in a group, in a workplace, even in a friendship, and still feel internally braced, vigilant, or subtly on guard. And by bracing, I mean when the body and the nervous system starts to internally prepare for tension, for conflict, hurt, rejection, discomfort, or unpredictability. And often that happens before anything bad has even occurred in any specific, very visual or physical cues. So almost like a part of the system is already preparing to protect itself. And it's often quite automatic and under the surface. So I really want to put a little bit of attention on it, engage with it, see what that's about, see what each of us, what our individual experiences are with that. And I've also started realizing that safety may not actually be one thing. Maybe it's not even a direct feeling. Maybe it's a combination of things that allow the nervous system to stop monitoring. And I've also noticed that there are spaces where nothing overtly bad is happening, but my system still feels like it can't fully soften. And there are other moments when something unexpectedly allows me to relax, even without any certainty being part of the equation. So it's a bit of a curious paradox that I've been observing and engaging with, and I want to bring into our awareness and play with a little bit today. So I really would love to explore what actually allows humans to stop racing and stay present within themselves, with each other, with life. So as we usually do, we're going to do a game. And this game is going to be just as a way of getting into this topic and into the field. We're going to do a little game. The game is going to be a moment of relaxation and a moment of bracing. Each person is going to briefly share one moment where their system relaxed, one moment where their system became braced or vigilant. We're not going to go into a full story. What we're looking to really describe here is what changed internally, what happened in the body, what happened in your attention, what did the nervous system start doing, what shifted first, even. Maybe you can capture that because sequence is also something I'm really curious about in terms of my own, the way my system processes, but also I'm curious about how other people process those sequential shifts. So we'll go one at a time and we'll share um, both a moment of relaxation and then followed by the moment of bracing so that we could have a side-by-side comparison of how does your system show up with this. Okay, who's ready to start?
I have a question. So, do we want to share the context, or we're just exploring the somatic experience?
You can share the context if it helps you to frame the somatic experience, but it's not about the story so much as like we're really tuning into the somatic experience. But yeah,
Okay.
feel free to share a little bit of the story if that it helps us to understand the somatic experience. Yeah, thank you for that question.
How about you starting us off, Pauline?
Thank you for asking, and I'm going to pass. I first want to see what the two of you come up with.
You always
Something
pass
inside
on
of me
going
braced.
first.
Something inside of me braced, literally right
Oh,
now.
great, great. So you start then. Tell me about the bracing that just happened. What changed internally? What happened in the body?
Was a joke.
Oh, it was a joke.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, are you relaxed? Can you share your relaxation somatic experience then?
Yeah. Yula, share with us.
I'm under focus. Yeah, my nervous system is definitely scanning for signs of threat or safety. It's like, how should we go about this? Should we take it as trying to put us into a corner? Or should we take it more lightly and see a friendly vibe there?
In the here and now, you mean?
Yes.
Could you describe a little bit more of the somatic experience of that?
Mm, Oftentimes for me, it starts, the contraction or the bracing starts in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes in a wave.
Mm.
So the wave starts radiating, and I can feel how like my chest and my breath get affected. And then sometimes also my face.
My face, I can totally sense how there is a shift in the muscles and appearance. Sometimes the color of the skin is like pinkish, or in extreme cases, even it's flashing.
Mm. Okay.
And if it lasts for too long, then it also sets in my head. Like if the tension goes up into my head, and then it stays there. And for example, there were a few times where I was in a conversation, like in a session on Zoom with someone for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, where the tension stayed there. It didn't go. And then I ended up really feeling how it's just something inside of my skull is throbbing. Well, not something, but blood.
Mm.
And there's that sensation that the skull is tight, too tight for whatever is now there.
Mm. Thank you for that. And what about moments of relaxation when you're with other humans or in situations?
Shall we do first a circle of tension and then go to relaxation?
Well, I was actually wondering if we could do it side by side so we could have a comparison from one person, but sure, if you feel like we do a circle of the bracing, sure, we could do that. Okay. Ira, would you share your moment of bracing and what that feels like in your system?
So since we started talking about it as a game, but it came to my mind that it's true that very often this tension in me arises when I consciously or unconsciously expect some external evaluation of myself and of my performance. So when I like, I need to deliver certain results. Uh, but I think in me, unlike in Yulia's case, in me, it begins in the area of the heart. So it's like this. I think in the chest, it's not so much not. It's just probably like some tension that sort of shuts down the breathing.
Mm.
And there is a knot. This does feel like a knot in my back. It's still in this area of the heart, but it's on the back, and it goes like this, and then it goes down into the stomach if it's really very present and the like the stress, the anxiety is very strong, then it might go down into the stomach also, just like the overall tension, just the sensation that the whole body gets tense. Where I think I feel the most, it's like the sensation that my body is made of wood. It's in the area of the shoulders, which I really notice only after like when the time passes. Like I really stay like this for several hours, and then I realize like, oh my God, what happens with my
Mhm.
shoulders.
So it's a stiffness that you're describing, yeah?
It's stiffness and like the sensation of weight. And it's really like I have this like the wooden desk here on
Mm-hmm.
my
Okay.
shoulders.
Thank you. For me, the moments of bracing are usually they start with a tension that I feel in my usually solar plexus. And then it goes to my shoulders, kind of like what you're describing, Ira, like this stiffness and this tension. I also there's some kind of scanning that starts in my heart space. And also at the same time, I think that my focus starts to really tighten and become more and more focused in with this kind of the scanning thing that's also happening in my mind, but also like this kind of energetic scanning the environment, but and also scanning myself, and the whole thing is just full of tense energy, alertness, and vigilance. It's really heightened, very energetically draining, a lot of energy is being used in that state, experience. So similar to both of you in some ways, and maybe a little bit different in others. Thank you for sharing. Okay, so
I
I feel
may
like,
add,
yeah.
may add, I just realized that I have another symptom, which curiously enough, I associate the most with the word bracing actually. And this is the tightened jaw.
Mm.
And this is that what I have been struggling with. This is, I think that I'm aware of the least. Like I don't notice it. And this is what I have been struggling with for many months lately, that I'm like learning to relax it deliberately and I don't succeed in that. So it's really like the I'm preparing to fight.
Mm. Thank you for that image. It makes me think of those some men who have that really well-developed lower jaw, and I think they're mostly always like associated with the fighters, right?
Mhm.
Like a good fighter has a big jaw, so that makes sense to me that the jaw would somehow get engaged in that bracing mechanism. And also, I want to add that my face also does something. So it was really cool, Yul, that you described what your face does, because maybe I didn't necessarily associate bracing very consciously to what my face does, but right now I am. And what my face does is it goes into a mask so that others cannot tell that I am really tense or scared or like really vigilant or really unsure. So it gives me like this, all my muscles go into like this, you will not read what's happening. No one will see what's happening. I'm gonna hide and I'm gonna scan. Were you gonna say something, Yul?
Oh, I also realized something else, another thing that happens, and it's my tongue actually gets tense. My tongue wants
Mm.
to like touch the upper teeth and to be touching the upper teeth. And through that, like it stays tense, and it can stay tense for a long time. And this, I mean, with other traces of bracing or expressions of bracing, I'm pretty good in how I can process them, shake them off if needed, like if stuff has really accumulated. With the tongue, oh my God, it's been like a challenge. So it takes a really big event organized and guided for the tongue to not only let go in the moment, but to stay like that further on. Because fine, I can let go in the moment, and of course, when I go to sleep, I also relax. But it easily comes back to this position when, the tension has been accumulating for a while.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because that is something I have been on purpose playing with, because I learned from one of the courses that I'm in that if you put your tongue up against the roof of your mouth, not the teeth, but of the roof of your mouth, it actually helps to regulate the nervous system back down to safety. Have you also come across that? Not for you, but are you actually touching the teeth? Because I specifically heard that you need to move it further away from the teeth and really just be touching the soft part of the roof of the mouth. Yeah, so for you it
I
doesn't
alternate
actually
between the two. Yeah, but no, not for me.
Interesting. Wow. Okay. You know what else actually comes up for me? I've just realized that depending on the type of bracing that's happening, if it's more physically like survivally based, like there's actual danger, my thighs get activated. I actually can feel it now. Like there's tension in my thighs, like my legs get activated. But strangely enough, when it's tension that is more relational, like something is happening that I'm not sure about, and there's a bracing that happens, I actually lose sensation of my legs, and all the energy goes into like all of the perceptive energy and physical sensation goes more like into the either the middle of my body or really into my head, and sometimes it really could cause even like a headache, but I really lose sensation in my lower extremities, like as if my legs are not there at all.
Yeah, like it's it's interesting how many things are happening and keep shifting as this reaction progresses, right? It's like it unleashes a chain of events.
A chain of events that are like really physically present, and yet sometimes I'm most of the time actually I'm not aware of what's happening, because I'm so much like in the data processing aspect of what's going on. And I only feel the effects of it. Oh, I can even like now even talking about it, I can already feel some tension in my shoulders. I only feel the effects of it on the body after the fact. Okay, well, thank you for, I know this didn't feel much like a game, so let's do the game version. Let's get some generative energy going before we jump into the questions. Why don't we just do popcorn style of what comes up for you when I say the word safety in your body? Just like one word, two words, a phrase, and let's just go around the room. So, safety.
Lightness.
safety.
And for you, Pauline?
Heart activation. Ira?
Warmth.
One more. Safety.
Fluidity. Freedom.
Softness. Embrace
Dance.
even. Dance. For me, embrace. It has an embrace, like this energetic quality in the hands, as if like I'm being embraced. Yul?
I don't know, something is in the word safety doesn't agree with me. I'm feeling like this word is causing me to slightly, maybe not brace, but it's like, what are you about? Safety even sounds very strangely. Safe?
Mm-hmm.
Safety. I mean, it now reminds me of this safe where something is locked and it's impossible to penetrate.
Oh, welcome to that. Wow. Something is locked and unable to be penetrated. Wow. Okay, now let's do lack of safety. What does that feel like? Just a light touch, lack of safety. My proprioceptors right away get turned on. Like they get hypervigilant. Like I have this like, oh, they're on. They're doing something.
Heart rate increases.
Heart rate what?
Increases.
In crisis, okay. Mm-hmm.
I'm asking myself questions like, what is lack of safety? How lacking is it? How is it lacking? Where is it lacking? Is it like a threat? Or is it just like something that something light, yes, that just wants to be noticed? Because lack of safety, I mean, it can also be about curiosity.
Thank you for that. So I'm gonna reframe. I'm gonna ask you to engage with the word unsafe, but not with your mind, with your body. When I say unsafe, can you just allow your body to speak to like what sensation comes up for it? Unsafe.
Probably something in my chest slightly vibrates. And wants to be expressed in a stronger format than usual.
Okay. Ira, unsafe?
My body does this. I probably need to describe it to the listeners who don't look at us. So I just it felt like I'm an animal that prepares for an attack. And so like my body assumes this posture of animal attack.
Hmm. And for me, unsafe, the arms really get activated as if like I'm preparing to push something away or to protect myself from something. Okay, thank you, ladies. Um, I'd like to move into the first question that I'd like to pose and engage with. And that question is, what actually allows your nervous system to relax around another person? And we're really tracking what changes in the body and the system, or like what qualities create relaxation. So feel free to share like a really short 1 or 2 sentence story if you need context, but really we're looking for, what changes in the body that allows your nervous system to relax around another person. I can start. I've actually been asking myself this question for a while because I don't have yet a concrete answer, but I will share how I track it in my system. So when I step into a conversation with a person that I like inherently feel safe with, my attention in my body, there's a softening, and there is a heart activation, and then there's also a lot of room in my actual headspace. Um, and not just in my headspace, but actually even like around my body. To have thoughts, to have fluidity, to have engagement, to have a range of like I have a range of things accessible to me, and it feels like this expansive thing in my energy body. And it also feels like, my like there's no tightening. I'm just like fully present, I'm available. Um there feels like, that all my organs are available. I'm available. There's a relaxation. There's an invitation. It feels good.
When you ask the question, because you frame it as like what helps your body to relax in the presence of another person or something like that. So like the first thing that came to my mind, and here I will have to go back to the concepts of human design. So like the first thing that came to my mind is this energy of recognition. Like when I feel recognized as I am, it's how to describe it. So it's definitely like the signal I receive from within. So like it comes from that other person that I am not just accepted, but somehow that the what that comes to my mind is the term that Paulina likes using, that like I'm rendered beautiful by that person.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
And it all happens like it's really perceived at the energetical level.
Mm.
And what it does to my nervous system, to my body, to my whole being is that like everything begins to flourish. It's like my energy begins to sparkle and to like it opens up like a flower. So
Mm.
it's all the things that I have described when we were talking about the relaxations, this lightness and in warmth, but it also like it's really I open up like a flower and it allows myself not just the expansion, but really the sparkling. So like this expression of my inner energy to the outside, it all happens on its own. So it's like some lock gets released in the
Mhm.
energetical system that let lets all of this out. And
Yeah,
it's really like allowing the flourishing.
I love it. And thank you for bringing me back to the primary question I asked at the beginning, which I also didn't answer. But can you tell me again, uh, what allows you to get into the space one more time? Because you had such a beautiful description of this flowering that I lost where you started.
I said that it was the energy of recognition.
Ah, energy of recognition. Yes. And I want to add that that's also the element that allows me to get into what I described as the state. And I'm sorry I missed that part. Um, yes, it is an energy of recognition and welcoming. Like, I feel welcome and I have a sense that no matter what comes up, we will be able to like jive, flow, process, question, like stay with it. So it's like it's more of a welcoming that allows my nervous system to really relax into that state of being available as I described. So thank you so much for bringing that back to the primary thing I was asking about, Ira. Thank you. Yul, how about you? What um what actually allows your nervous system to relax around another person?
Yeah. Mm. Maybe it's mm, perceived presence,
Mm.
also dynamic presence, like the presence that is constantly adjusting. And to me, like, am I seen, am I allowed my shape? That is the question that at the center of it. And also the shape that is constantly shifting. And to allow my shifting shape, the other person has to also be shifting shape. That is when I'm thinking about some interactions that have this sense of maybe safety. I'm not sure. Did you say safety, Pauline?
I didn't say safety, I don't believe right now, but
Or
I
in the
mean,
question, was there a sense of safety?
in the question, I asked what actually allows your nervous system to relax
Oh,
around
yeah.
another
Yeah.
person.
Um, yes. So it's some creating a couple of experiences together when we're like dynamically shifting shapes, and everyone is aware of it and allowing it. Maybe not aware of it to the extent that we can express it in words, but we're very aware of each other and how we're like, passing it on and engaging with each other and co-creating.
And would you mind sharing? So the shape you're describing, the fact that you're allowed to have your shape and the shifting of the shape, is that also like is there a somatic aspect to it? Like can you tie it a little bit more to the Like, what is the physical sensation of that?
There is a sense of fluidity in the whole body, I would say. There is lightness, maybe some sparkling also that is very easy to emerge.
Mm.
And the shape shifting is about the expansion, but also contraction. So basically, the cycles of contraction and expansion, they flow rather than brace. There
Mm.
isn't there is this wave.
Mm. I love that. Okay. So for you, Yid, I heard that you feel rendered as beautiful by the other person. And then everything begins to flourish, like your energy begins to sparkle and open up. There's an expansion, like more in this area, right? In this kind of area of your body, of your system. And the energy of is the energy of recognition more centered somewhere specifically in the body, or
I think I receive it in the heart area.
the heart area? Okay, cool. And Yula, you have a sense of this shape that is expanding and contracting, but it's a wave type of sensation, right?
It's not necessarily a wave type of sensation, but the wave doesn't get impeded. It's contraction, expansion. There is flow to it. There isn't like there isn't bracing.
Mm-hmm. So you're tuning in more to there's a distinction in there I'm trying to capture. Do you know what I mean? Because I asked you about a wave in terms of like, I guess, shape, and you said, no, it's not about the wave like that. It's about the movement itself between bracing and expanding. Yes? So,
Not between bracing and expanding, but between the regular the healthy contraction and expansion. It's like your breath flows, without you holding your breath or without it, becoming shallow. It just it has this quality of flow in, exhaling and inhaling, but also doing it with the environment and the other person.
got it. Okay, great. Thank you. And I would want to bring something in, a little story before I ask the next question. Um, I have been reflecting on seagulls lately a lot because I've been observing them and intently on the beach a lot. And when I watch them, I notice that almost never do they seem relaxed around each other. They're like they stay packed closely together on the beach, but they're constantly monitoring, competing, posturing, stealing food, reacting to tiny movements. And then there's this constant sense of agitation and vigilance in their system. Like even if they're trying to lay on the sand and sleep and like they never fully close their eyes and just their eyes stay open. They're constantly flattering up. They're constantly monitoring, even in the state of perceived like rest. And what struck me was that they still stay together, even though this is how, their system is responding and how their social behaviors are set up. Um, so not because they necessarily trust one another, but because survival depends on remaining connected to this group and to the information that flows between the group, because you could actually you could see the flow of the information. Um, and then also the food source and basically collective awareness is what is really visible. And it made me wonder how much we humans also do this. How many environments and relationships and workplaces, families, social systems, do we stay inside, where part of us never really fully feels relaxed? We stay in these relationships or situations, even though we can't quite ever feel relaxed. But we've adapted so deeply to the vigilance that's present in those relationships or interactions, that we really stop noticing it. And side note, hawks and ospreys actually are very different as I observe them, because they're solitary and they're very calm and they're not constantly socially monitoring. They're just themselves. Like there's a sense of peace and calm when I observe them. Whereas if I'm observing seagulls, I'm always feeling like I'm bracing, for them, with them as I'm observing them because of the lack of rest in their systems. So it was an interesting observation that I was also connecting to our discussion today. And the next question I want to engage with is, can you belong somewhere still not feel safe there?
I think yes, you can, for example, not feel safe together with the group you belong with.
Can you say more? What is your own experience with this specifically?
it just like, for example, I think it's a very common sensation nowadays. We live in the world that many of us feel that it's falling apart, and it produces very high tension and anxiety in the individual nervous system, but also in the collective nervous system. And yet it also heightens the sensation of belonging to the group or with the group, whatever preposition we want to use, because actually this feeling of danger, and some of those dangers we expect in it, and some of them it's the danger itself is that we don't know what to expect from the world, from the future. So it's this decomposition of high level of uncertainty that makes us all put on in this state of tension. So this state of the vigilance that I think also heightens the instinct for activation of this like the mechanisms of identification, who belongs to my group and who is the enemy. It's like this internal system of identification, like these are my people, these are not my people. So I will get this sensation, okay, so like these are my people, I belong with this group, but together as a group, we all feel totally unsafe.
Hmm. So, and where does that unsafety, lack of safety, where do you feel that in your system as you describe this? Like, so I'm with my people, these are my people, I belong, but together as a group, we feel unsafe or we're
Yeah,
breathing.
like in me, it's all the same symptoms. So it's the tension here, the knot in the back, the knot in the stomach, the tight on shoulders, the tight on jaws.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yul?
Yeah. At first, I want to say that we are different than birds. So, I've read a book, The Bird's Way, that went a lot into kind of like looking at birds and their behavior and what happens from a human-centric point of view. And there is like a lot of things that actually, like humans cannot comprehend because they cannot have that experience. And um, um, like for example, some of the birds, what is relaxation to them, right? They fly and they sleep at the same time. This is for some birds how their nervous system functions. So it's they might this is or that this might be kind of like the for the seagulls, the relaxation, what you're observing, but the way that it registered in you, not necessarily. And then the birds of prey, I mean, there is like they stay put and they, like monitor for so long. So, does it make them? Well, we don't know. That's what I want to say. Because somehow after reading that book, and describes a lot of behaviors that we humans consider, oh, it's almost evil, like cuckoos that bring their chicks into, or eggs rather, into the smaller birds' nests, and then their chicks are bigger and they end up like killing the other chicks. But all of that, it actually like like there is a lot behind it. That's how things are co-created or new behaviors are co-created and things like that. So I just felt that I wanted to say that. And as far as belonging, um, I'm trying to think. I first for the longest time in my life, I used to feel like I truly belong nowhere. And then I started to belong to places because they promised me some places that I could belong with them. And I never fully felt not relaxed, but like genuinely being like belonging with, like, oh wow, it's just so mine, and I'm just shaping or shifting my shape as I wish. But like, of course, shifting shape always affects the other in some way. So that's me kind of like going into some utopia, I think, that I can just, oh, there are places where I can just like be shapeshifting and shapeshifting and shapeshifting and all will be just so fine because I think it's yeah, it's a utopia that things like that never happened. And today you belong with one thing, at least human thing, and tomorrow you don't. And I agree with Iri that there is this a lot of the tension and the uncertainty and the perceived danger that is kind of like ubiquitous. It makes people just go for this formal sense of belonging. Like said, oh yes, I belong with these people, and therefore I can be safe. And yeah, in my experiences of having been there, you just you, you you just go for that because you think you need to. And to me, probably, like with all humans, you like it's a dynamic feeling. It's a feeling that can be shifting. You just need to be present. And of course, there are like cases for a lot of people actually when they just choose to be part of groups, not getting a sense of belonging, but being braced with a group at all times. But even if you are in a group where you today you feel like you belong with this group, I think it's just like not something that is to be taken for granted. I think that it's like an experience to be engaged with, like, okay, I'm enjoying this flow now, and let's see how it unfolds.
Have you ever experienced a sense of belonging, let's say not in your past, because you said you felt like you never belonged anywhere, but in your recent experiences, have you had a sense of, yes, I belong here, but I still don't feel safe?
Lately, I filtered such belongings. I filtered through them.
And what do you mean?
I'm no longer in these groups.
But you did have at least some experience of being in these groups, yes? That you technically belong,
Yeah, of course.
and yet you're bracing, right? You don't feel safe.
Yeah, I'm embracing and safe. I don't know why. The word safe does not sit well with me. I have to say, like, but I'm still somehow reacting to the word safe. I don't like this word.
Okay, well, unsafe. So you technically belong, but you're feeling unsafe. Or you technically belong, but you can sense that you're in a bracing experience, like physically, somatically in your system.
Yes, exactly.
There's
What
vigilance. There's
that
vigilance.
kind of like you technically belong, but you are in a vigilant state. That I've experienced. Yeah.
Because we didn't really touch on this aspect, right? When we were talking about belonging in the previous episode. I feel like we kind of assumed that if you belong, then everything's good. Your system can relax and you're not that we assumed it overall, but I mean, we didn't really engage with that aspect of yes, you can belong somewhere, but you could also be in a highly vigilant state and something is, making your system brace and um you're really not feeling safe or whatever word is most usable for you. Because when I think about belonging, my hope is that when I belong is I feel really safe. That belonging comes with safety. That's my like biggest, hope for experiencing with other humans and especially with humans that I feel like I do belong or we're on the same page. There's synergy. There's a place to really be able to relax. And so because I have experienced some spaces of belonging, some people where I feel like I belong, and I also feel a sense of relaxation. It makes me now be able to really reflect on like more heightened reflection of situations and people where I technically belong with, but I really feel hyper vigilant around them. Like the minute I step in somewhere that I technically belong in, but my whole system goes into a bracing response.
I think in the last episode we mostly focused on belonging with life. That's why we touched on people a little bit of people, but not a lot more. That this opportunity of belonging with life is affording this belonging with people, even if people are not very welcoming or present, or like not recognizing you and things like that. And so like I'm thinking, for example, of Pauline, what that you know, I think we have a kind of like a relationship where I feel like I belong with you, and had like really such cool, experiences when I was in California and 3 days. And then we do regularly, like brace with each other.
Yeah, true. True. Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying, I'm not like, this is somehow not my expectation that belonging means always feeling safe. And that's why maybe I don't like the word safe. Bracing,
Mm,
yes. By bracing, not necessarily am I feeling unsafe. I'm
mm.
feeling, something needs to be addressed, something needs attention, something in me wants to, wants to react. Probably it feels unsafe at some level. But, like it's not in my, safe is not how I imagine it necessarily.
I love that. Thank you for that distinction and that discernment that you just brought in. So bracing, that's true. Bracing does not necessarily have to be tied to safety. I think in my system, it actually really is. Now, I can brace for probably a variety of reasons, but one of the main ones would be a perceived lack of safety and a hypervigilance. It really does go to that survival instinct for me. It is about safety. It's like, am I safe? But can you tell me a little bit more? Like, so for you, bracing can also be, can you give me more of like what causes bracing for you? Like more specifics.
I mean, it's like something that is, maybe it's not yet categorized as unsafe or danger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's just something that needs to be put, it asks for some focus or curiosity
Mm.
or space. Bracing is maybe like a type of storytelling.
Wait, so actually, I'm really tracking what you're describing in my system, and I'm now starting to see that curiosity can also cause a bracing response. I was thinking that bracing is primarily caused by like more things are more in the like in the danger zone, but actually now I'm seeing that bracing sometimes even happens when it's something exciting or there's curiosity or something interesting. I can also go into a bracing response because I guess my system is registering it as a potential change and it's unsure of what resources are going to be required for it, right? So at the nervous system level, this actually makes total sense. Um, But I don't know if I really made that connection before, that I'm actually bracing it, and it really feels that way in the system, the way I've described my pathway for it. Cool. Thank you for bringing that in. Ian, how about you?
I'm also questioning this equation that belonging should equal to safety.
Okay.
At least, like in my case, I don't think that was the experience I'm looking for when I'm looking for the sense of belonging. It's more that it does produce a certain relaxation of the nervous system when when I find this fit, that it's like that I'm the piece of the puzzle that finds its own place and I feel that I fit here. But at the same time, and like keeping apart the situation when I'm talking about the feel embraced together. So we belong together, but we embrace together against some external danger. I'm thinking, for example, and the case of curiosity fits very well here. I'm thinking of, for example, an entrepreneurial environment where just let's imagine a person who thrives in these situations when there is a competition, then I need to compete against other people. I need to compete for better results. I like uh, there is this like very extreme nervous system activation because I need to be vigilant. I need to be very active. I need to be aggressive to achieve my goals. And like I may read the environment as the environment of the competition that like I need to be vigilant against, but at the same time, I can feel that I fit here. Like I feel like a fish in the water in this environment. So I belong here, I belong with this group, but this group makes me vigilant. And
Yeah.
this is exactly why I feel that I belong.
Yep.
Yes, but and in this case, you're describing something that would be very activating for the system because there are survival instincts that are part of competition, right? And achievement, especially if you're, competing for scarce resources, which would be like only one person gets to be the top dog in this competition, right? That's a scarce resource,
It's,
and
I'm not sure that it's really about the scarcity and the scarcity and the survival, because this game it's about more the adrenaline and the expression of the aggression. It's not necessarily about survival.
well, when you're talking about thriving, that does bring, like, on the nervous system level, for me, that brings up things that are associated with survival, because and competition and other people, and there's only one person that can win. um
If there is like a competition in this classical meaning of the word, because competition can mean that people just are getting motivated and inspired by each other, and that's kind of how they go.
Motivated and
You
inspired
know, like
feels
if
different in my system as you described that, you but the way Ira set up that example, that had me registered a different sense in my nervous system about what that would take, what that would entail.
yeah, but that only may say to us that you probably wouldn't thrive in this environment, but it doesn't mean that the other person wouldn't.
But we're not talking about whether I or the other person would thrive in the environment. We're talking about what does the nervous system do
No,
in those specific.
we are yeah, but what I was arguing about is that what I'm describing, like I don't have enough research data, how it's all reflected in the body biologically. So I won't argue how much of it is really the instinct for survival and how much of it is the expression of human creativity.
Which I like that you're not
But
bringing in research data because I'm not asking for research data. I really don't care about the research data. I care about us engaging
but
with
but
our internal experience when we talk
so
about this.
like so like in in my experience, like this expression of aggression is not necessarily about survival. This is what I mean. It's exactly about like the creativity of life. I need to get activated because I want to earn my $1,000,000.
Perfect. Can you
And
explain to
in
me
order to
why?
get to this,
Can you
yeah,
explain to me why it goes into the aggression category for you, into the space of aggression in your system, as you describe this?
because it is about aggression.
How? In your system, though, tell me.
It's just this is the drive what gets you into action. It's aggression. The
So for
aggression doesn't necessarily mean that I want to kill someone or to hit another person. The aggression is like the sex is the expression of aggression.
like, are you making a blanket statement, or are you saying for you, sex, and not always, maybe sometimes, is an expression of aggression?
Uh, this is the probably it's a blanket statement. Yeah.
Can you speak to your experience like directly so that I have more a sense of you? Like, so it sounds like to you in an environment, if you were put in an
So like
environment of
if
entrepreneurship.
you want, I for example, I need to make the clarification. I'm not that person who would thrive in this environment, but I'm saying that the sense of belonging does not necessarily means the looking for safety.
Well,
Can
okay, so
I,
hold on.
uh,
Yeah,
can I
you will.
invite us
Yeah.
for a pause?
Ooh, yes.
Because something in me started to brace.
Something in me also started to brace. I started feeling it here. These bones. I started being very aware of these bones. I'm not usually ever aware of these bones. What are these? The collarbones? Yeah. Thank you, Yul, for bringing in our new facilitation trick when there is tension in the system.
Yeah. So, Pauline, maybe can you share with us what your take on this is?
The about the question, can you still belong somewhere and still not feel safe there? You mean that take on that, or on what?
Yes, take on that.
Yeah, I guess when I was engaging with this question, I was more thinking about um what are the types of situations or relationships where belonging would hopefully come with a sense of safety. And as I think about that, those are the actually. So just as I said that, no, to be honest, I would like to have a sense of safety no matter what type of relationship or situation I'm actually part of, that I also have a sense of belonging with.
Then maybe I have a sense that like maybe we have different definitions of the sense of safety. Because
Okay.
again, like that doesn't sit with me, like the sense of safety, and I want a safe sense of safety always. Hearing that just like doesn't sit with, but this is not, life is inherently not like that and can never be like that. So I'm curious what you mean by this sense of safety that you're always looking for.
Okay. I can actually give you an interesting example of what made me engage with a sense of safety even more directly. And that'll answer your question. I was in a specific container with someone, and the leader of this container um said, she was addressing something, and she said, I just want you to know, to all of us, this is not a safe container. It may be safer in some ways, but it is not safe. And suddenly, when I heard that, strangely, I actually felt a sense of relaxation around those things that I like to call safety. Um, because it felt more honest and coherent. So it was like my nervous system was able to trust that directness more than reassurance, right? More than like, so basically, safety for me is not necessarily about, okay, there's going to be zero danger here in this relationship or this container ever. It's more about that there is coherence here, there's um transparency, there's the natural ability, as you described early on, you would to for shapes to contract and expand and interact with one another and be able to be honest and address things that come up that may be triggering for the nervous system. But there's coherence in terms of, like, no matter what is part of this dance that we're gonna do, there's gonna be space. First of all is welcome. We will talk about it or discuss it or work through it or address it, as things are needed. And we're not going to say it's one thing, but it's actually another thing. So that to me creates, so it's not like a one thing, right? But it's a compilation of things that create that sense of safety. Like, meaning it's not necessarily that I'm totally safe, but I know that if things are starting to really build and really be tense and we're no longer flowing, like there's room to address it, to interact with it, to figure out a new way to flow. It doesn't have to come back to this way of flowing, but maybe it's a new way of flowing because we actually now understand each other better. Does that make sense?
That now makes total sense. Like
Uh,
coherence is something that really lands well, and I can also see how to your example, it also perfectly makes sense, right? You come with an expectation that there will be some, call it aggression or call it, whatever activation involved, and this is what people expect, and they, and they might even know how to deal with it. And then there are groups where like you come and you're told that, oh, there is safety. And by the way, I still think that there is no absolute safety. And then, there is this that there is a lot hidden, kind of like under the veil, and no one really expresses themselves or what's going on. And that is incoherence. Well, that I like much more.
mm, cool.
I
Thank you.
also like the word coherence.
Say more.
And no, it's makes much more sense in relationship to belonging. rather than safety. Because you like when if we discuss the question like what we are looking for, what I'm looking for when I'm looking for the sense of belonging, I think the word coherence describes it the best because it's the coherence between me and what I belong with. We are coherent with each other.
And there is like honesty and transparency in our expectations on what's going to happen. And of course, there are also, Pauline, to your question, belonging with, like people who go to wars and things like that. So huge groups of people who actually feel belonging to the extent that we might have never experienced.
But belonging with danger, exactly. Yeah, this is exactly if we're looking for the personal examples, like I have been thinking of right now. So like when, for example, I take a rifle because I love shooting, although I have had very few experiences of that. But like when I take the rifle and I shoot, I have this sense of belonging, like that I belong with this experience, with this thing. This like it doesn't create me the sense of safety at all. Like if not, like my heart rate rises up, and I am bracing because there is the like the element of performance that I need to shoot the target, but I definitely have the sense of belonging. I belong with this rifle and with the experience of the shooting, 100%.
That's true. And what we were trying to, I think, what I was trying to zoom in on was a sense of belonging, but not being able to be relaxed in that experience of belonging, right? And I brought in the word bracing so that it's not necessarily safety, but it is bracing as a signal that you're not relaxed, right? It's one of those mechanisms of like your there's tension,
Yeah.
you're bracing
And
for something. Yeah, go ahead.
and that is why we're talking about the environments that by their nature imply the necessity of bracing, and you still may belong there.
Ah, thank you for that. I see what okay. Right. So there are places and spaces where you would belong and you would actually need to be able to brace. And then there are places and spaces where you maybe have a sense of belonging, but you cannot relax. Like it's not the relationship you would hope that you would have to be constantly bracing in, and yet it is one that you're constantly bracing in.
Can you repeat the second part?
So some relationships, for example, our primary caregiver, right? Hopefully you would have a sense of belonging, and a lot of us don't, right? But let's say for those of us that hopefully can have a sense of belonging to your primary caregiver, but and then you would also hope that in that relationship where you belong with your caregiver, you could also have a sensation of relaxation in that interaction, in that relationship. So you belong and you're relaxed, you're not bracing. And yet a lot of us still have that sense of I belong with this primary caregiver. I belong, and technically I belong in this family, and yet I'm constantly living in um, a bracing physicality, energetically bracing, physically bracing, emotionally bracing, right? So, and it becomes automatic over time so that you no longer can even tell that you're actually quite tense constantly in your system. But it would
Then,
be
yeah, like in this case, I would assume that would more create in the person the feeling that I actually do not belong here. That there is this lack of this sense of belonging. But I
Well, it
also
could be a
agree with
question.
Julia
Yeah.
in the sense that there could be like the general, the umbrella sense of safety, of the relaxation, but that doesn't mean that there are no moments of bracing, even under this umbrella of belonging. Like, for example, I can give the example of my family with my parents, and the three of us, I think that definitely can. I'm sure each of us have this feeling that no matter what happens, one can always count on the other two, on support, on what that they will be there. And I definitely have had in my life like enough of the experience of that gives me the sense of belonging and this sensation, okay, like here I'm protected, I'm safe. And yet there are plenty of moments when I'm with my parents when I feel that like here I like well my vigilance system activates because there are certain tensions that are not unresolved. There are elements in the relationship where I have not resolved certain traumas in relationship with like my parents, etc. So there are triggers that activate my nervous system, and at this moment in this particular context I stop feeling totally safe and accepted and whatever, although like there is a general umbrella.
I think maybe one distinction to make here is chronic tension and chronic bracing versus intermittent. Because
Yes.
this is intermittent bracing, I think it's actually part of the human condition. No matter who you are with, it may be, you think an ideal friend, partner, whoever, there will inevitably moments of bracing because it's just called being alive, I think.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Thank you for bringing that in. That's true. And also in what you were describing, Ir, the fact that we then land on questioning, well, if there's constant bracing, do I belong? The fact that there's that trajectory, um, it automatically makes me start engaging with questions of like, well, where did I get this thought that belonging, can have a sense of safety in it, like, or should, like, where did I get um, that question from, or that, like, why do I search for that aspect? And then the chronic versus intermittent is an important aspect, to consider in that question. But also, if I'm chronically in a state of bracing, is that normal in certain relationships? Like, could that be normal? Am I only saying that because there's a huge cost to me and I don't like it? But is that actually normal? Is that what is the standard in relationships in terms of humans? Like, I'm not sure.
But in what is normal, that is a big question. And probably like going back to my nutrition consulting years, it was just like really, you do not want to go for normal at all. Because if you go for normal and compare your like blood testing values to normal, to the normal range, then that already includes by all like symptoms and how you feel. It's sick actually. So like what is normal nowadays? And I think it's more, to me, it's more the question of like what do you want? And I'm also on board with Ira's question. It's like, if there is constant bracing and chronic bracing, can it be called a belonging? Like, how do these two interact?
Thank you for that distinction as well. And I am sitting with all of these separate variables that are part of these questions, and I'm not sure how they stack up because normal comes from, for example, in my world, from psychology, right, that I studied, and from attachment theory and from all kinds of different things that just like in nutrition consulting, there's a normal range for, let's say, lab work, right? But in my world of psychology, there's a defined normal range in terms of human to human connections, in terms of belonging and safety and all this stuff. And yet, as we explore all of these different various concepts in our episode, and I get a chance to really tune into things more, granularly, I'm actually asking questions like, well, I don't know, does safety belong in belonging? Is belonging necessarily, oh, like part of it is bracing, whether it's intermittent or chronic? Like, what is the optimal human state? What are the optimal human relationships like? Is there even such a thing? Why even think there is a normal, right? In terms of that, like, am I looking at some of the huge bracing experiences I'm currently having with certain people in my life, and am I looking at it from the perspective of, a perspective that I inherited from what I've studied, right, and learned, and maybe they're actually inaccurate, even though, on the surface it seems like they really did a lot of experimentation and like really studied the human experience in order to come up with these things that I've studied. So if they're observing true human behavior, and these are the theories and the things they're prescribing, like, some of it must be true, right? And yet in experience, things don't add up. In my own personal experience, things don't add up. In some of the conversations that we have here, right? Some things don't add up. So I'm still engaging with all of this. I'm not sure where I land. I'm like poking different things and trying to see, well, what is this matrix? Like, how does it work, or how can it work? How should it work? How would I like it to work, in order to see where I can create affordances for things I don't like, then maybe I'm not creating affordances for, or can't, because of how I think it should be, or could be. Does that make sense?
I think it makes total sense. And I think also that, like, if you want to look for an environment, a group, a person you want to belong with in order to feel safe, I think it's a totally valid wish, target, whatever, like intention. So, like, what is normal? What is optimal for you? This is optimal. So, I think if for you belonging equals to safety, then it equals to safety.
I'm actually not sure that belonging equals safety. That's why I'm engaging with these questions.
Well, but anyway, I think you will resolve this question based on your own experience.
So it sounds like you do have an answer. You yourself have an answer that belonging does not equal safety. Yes? Am I getting that right?
N Not necessarily.
Okay.
So,
What would
that
what
is
do you
why you
think?
like what as we discussed before, I do like the word coherence. So belonging creates this sense of coherence. that I'm coherent here, the environment, the group is coherent to me, I'm coherent to the group, the experience is coherent to me, I'm coherent to the experience.
Does belonging necessarily automatically create a sense of coherence for you?
I think yes.
Belonging equals coherence. So there
Yes.
must be coherence in order for you to experience belonging.
Yes.
How would you answer that question, Yul? Does coherence and belonging, are they equal? Are they must they be together?
Not maybe equal, but belonging better than that's coherence to me feels like a much better gauge of belonging than a sense of safety. Safety, not really. And then I also wanted to talk to the normal and to psychology. I mean, the whole discipline of psychology and Western science and research is so young, right? And people in this shape or form have been there for a couple million years. And how we've been, it's a pretty novel occurrence, right? And especially in the West. Um, like all the like
What do you
all
mean,
the
have we been? What do you
like
mean?
in
Just
very
sort of.
individualistic and
Oh, our
someone else,
society. Okay. Mm-hmm.
yeah, but also like now gradually I think creating almost a religion out of psychology. We just like no, it's kind of like become like like machines that know like all the concept, or don't, you are a narcissist, or you are this, or you are that. um and I think that actually this this like academic kind of knowing where you read about it in books has misplaced the the sense of presence with each other and actually exploring what we can be for each other, whether there is something in this relationship or not, and what is the relationship of like being in a community, and what it like would require for each of us. So if we were to look, for example, for a sense of safety being in the community, like what uh maybe unusual or not easily seen things does it require of each of us? Maybe kind of like dropping a lot of things as individuals we believe in, like some of our rights to whatever, like feel in this bit that. So, I mean, it's a very interesting question, and I do respect, you know, psychology, and there are, there's a lot of interesting that's come out of it, but um, yeah, I treat it with caution that what it presents is a very limited view on the human condition.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. In the interest of time, we need to start wrapping up. So I wanna see what each of you is leaving with so far. If you could help me gather, if you can gather your individual threads through this discussion so far, so that I know where we're landing, and maybe if something in the future can be explored some more, I would really appreciate that. Would you please share?
To me, it was a very interesting question. Like, what are we actually looking for when we're looking for the sense of belonging? And like whether it's safety and this, like finding for myself that like it's about coherence. It was an interesting insight.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just mm, I I guess what I'm living with is understanding how, like how dynamic we are and how I um whereas like you just said introduced this term an umbrella of safety. I like that. I like to have something where there is some kind of umbrella under which a lot of different things possible, also experiments, also express, agreements of maybe expression of aggression, because actually places for expressing aggression, I think they're important. I mean, people need to express aggressions, and if that can be done in, like community in some form, where there is coherence for doing that, that's what people call to do. And yeah, but in general, I'm living with the sense that the sense of belonging is a little bit evasive in nowadays, because the sense of belonging is about like upholding traditions of being in groups and communities that know how to support each other, know how to have and engage in healthy conflict, know how to be real with each other and honest and transparent. And I think in most of the places that I'm familiar with, that is not at all what's going on. And that's why kind of like that sense of belonging with people to me is so difficult, maybe even to discuss.
Thank you. I want to close off by coming back real quick to what you were saying about Yul, about the bird observation that I shared earlier, that we can't really understand what's really going on from our human perspective. And I really not just recognize, but I have had actually shared like a felt experience of that. Yes, it's true. Everything is from a human perspective, and how can we possibly know what's going on? We don't even know what's going on with another human usually, right? So like, how can we know about another species? And yet, when I observe seagulls specifically, there's all the cues of vigilance, right? So they're not chilling. They're not everything is not like, okay. Other birds, you get a different sensation with. So I still say that what I'm observing in the field of seagulls is vigilance and incoherence. Even though maybe for them that's not how they're processing the information, but they're on alert and they're constantly fighting with one another. And someone's laying in the sand, and then the bird will come, the more dominant one will come and literally fly right on top of him to get him out of the spot, even though the whole beach is available. So he could sit in that spot because he wants to show dominance. Or the way that, because I was actually reading some of the bird research that was done, and that's how it's been described, that it is a show of dominance. But sometimes nature does help me access my own internal, felt senses about certain things. And I think it's helpful to make some references to the human experience because, in some ways, I believe nature does still mirror. We are also animals. And so, in some ways, there are shared dynamics and experiences, even if maybe the interpretations of them are different or the felt sense is different, but something about it still feels shared to me. And um, what I'm leaving with in terms of our discussion is that I want to make more room around the concept and the experience of belonging, and also whether safety should, can, is present and part of it or not. I feel like I need more room to experiment and see where these things land together. Now, coherence and belonging, to me, those are two different aspects than the safety piece. But I agree with the two of you that a sense of belonging does ultimately, most likely, also have some sense of coherence. Whether that coherence changes its shape, as you described, Julia, or not, right? And there's a natural flow with the changing shapes. Now that feels more accurate for belonging and coherence and how they interact. And then safety for me is another variable there somewhere. Um, so that's something I still want to explore a little bit deeper for myself. Aggression. That was an interesting thing that Ida brought up, and I am not sure. I know aggression definitely comes up, in the realm of belonging, coherence, or lack thereof. Um, that's an interesting energy. I'm not sure where I land on that just yet. I need to explore that a little bit more. Um, and then it strikes me actually quite curious that you basically, I feel like you're saying belonging in humans, you're really unsure about it, period. So your sense of belonging is mostly in the realm of nature and maybe conceptual ideas. I don't know, something else. Yes, did I get that wrong? Tell me.
No, it's just that my expectation of that belonging is not safety and it's more dynamic. It's that maybe the difference is that before I used to be more seeing belonging as something like fixed, something you get and then you stay there. And now I see that how I'm shifting and then where and with whom I belong is shifting, and that I'm allowing myself to be shifting, and I also am allowing others to be kind of to be shifting. And so it's more yeah, it's like dynamic, and through that I think more alive and allowing for all kinds of things to emerge, including conflict, including aggression, um, you know, things like that. But
Okay,
yeah,
I was thinking you said that it's a bit evasive nowadays, belonging with humans. That's why I was thinking maybe, you're more gravitating to other things outside of humans for that sense of belonging these days.
I do gravitate, but I also have come to acknowledge that human belonging is really important because I'm still human. But then, and I
Ah,
also,
Dan.
and
You're
I
still
also,
human, Yula. Sorry, go ahead.
no, also wanted to, clarify something that I meant with the birds. I didn't mean to
Okay.
say that your perception was wrong somehow. No, I meant to say that, like the world of birds and how it is experienced by birds is different how it's perceived by humans.
Yeah.
But that like nature reflects back to us things, and actually like two of us could be watching the same flock of seagulls and could perceive something different. And but
Hmm.
that like I this is one of my like favorite things ever, to be reflected, right? This is what like I really appreciate, and it's So that I didn't mean to say that your perception was not legitimate or wrong. I just meant to say that, like whatever is happening for them is different because they inhabit a completely different world that where everything is different.
True. No, I thank you for reflecting that back to me. Maybe there was a part of me that felt like you were not picking up what I was trying to express. And at the same time, I was still totally agreeing with your perspective because I agree that it's all human perception, right, when it comes to things. But yes, the reflection point to my human experience is what I'm engaging with, and I like the way you framed that and phrased that. Thank you for that. Okay, well, another very interesting zigzaggy journey. Not we didn't get to some of the other aspects that I was wanting to engage. It's funny, now that I prepare for the episode, I'm actually whittling down the amount of questions that are possible in each episode. Like, it used to be 7, and now I'm down to 4, and I still can only get to 2 or so. So it's quite interesting, this trajectory in how we're engaging with one another and the questions that we bring in. But this was another dip of the toe into the water of all of this. I think we could talk about this um, to at length some more. But as we close up, I just want to say thank you to both of you for showing up, for engaging with this, and I want to thank whoever's listening or watching us. And I'm going to leave you with the question of, what would it mean to live with less bracing? What would that be like? What conditions might need to be met? What type of situations? And what would that experience be like? Would you want to have that experience? Okay. Thank you very much, and we will see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. How was it for you? We believe that the more people experience group flow together, the better off we all are. More connected, more creative, more alive. So let's expand the field.
If this episode resonated with you, help us spread the word. Share it with a friend, leave a comment, or give us a rating. We love you.
Do subscribe so you'll know when the next experiment comes out. You can also connect with us on our Life and Flow group Substack. We'd love to hear from you. Let's keep flowing together.